Oh please stop being dramatic, Ava, my mother laughed, tapping her spoon against her mug. If your husband wanted your sister, maybe you should ask yourself why. My father didn't even look up from his phone. You always make everything about you. Your sister didn't steal anything. Men leave. That's life. And my sister, my own blood, just sat there, eyes red in that performative way, whispering, I never meant to hurt you, but love just happens, right? I remember thinking how quiet betrayal sounds when it's wearing a familiar face. There are moments in life when something inside you goes still. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just still. Like a glass settling after it's been shaken too hard. And in that stillness, you finally hear the truth you've been avoiding. Hi everyone. My name is Ava Miller. I'm the kind of woman who used to apologize when other people stepped on my feet. I believed that if I stayed kind, if I stayed patient, things would work themselves out. That was my flaw. I kept thinking love was stronger than patterns. I was wrong. That morning, I walked into my parents' kitchen because my husband hadn't come home the night before, and my sister's car was in his parking spot. I didn't come to accuse. I came because I needed someone to tell me I was wrong. I needed my parents to say no, not her. Not to you. Instead, I got coffee, excuses, and a lesson on how easily families rewrite the truth when it's inconvenient. My sister kept rubbing her wrist where my wedding bracelet used to be. A thin gold chain with a tiny key charm. I wore it every day since my husband gave it to me, said it meant I was home. Now it was on her. My chest didn't explode. It folded. Quietly. Like paper you keep refolding until it forgets its original shape. I just need some air, I said, standing up. My mom sighed like I'd asked for money. Don't make this harder than it has to be, Ava. Harder. Like it wasn't already impossible to breathe. I walked out to the front steps and sat down, staring at the cracked tile my dad always promised to fix. I pressed my palms together, feeling the cold settle into my bones, and that stillness came back. The one that doesn't scream, it calculates. Because while they were busy protecting the golden child, they forgot something important. The apartment they were so proud of. The one they planned to leave to my sister? The paperwork they trusted me to help organize, last year? Yeah. That part of the story hadn't caught up with them yet. Behind the closed door I heard my mother say, she'll get over it. She always does. And that was the moment I stopped being the daughter who forgave. I stood up, brushed off my jeans, and felt something unfamiliar settle into my chest. Not rage, but clarity. They thought this was the end of my heartbreak. It was just the beginning of their regret. Twist. Because while they were choosing sides inside that kitchen, I was already holding the only key that mattered, and they had no idea what I was about to unlock. I didn't go back inside. I walked to my car instead, hands shaking just enough to remind me I was still human, still hurt, still very much awake. The sky was that dull gray that makes everything look unfinished, like the world itself hadn't decided what kind of day it wanted to be. My phone buzzed. A text from my husband. We need to talk. Don't make this ugly. Funny how people who already burned your house down always ask you not to start a fire. I didn't reply. I started the engine and drove straight to the place I hadn't been to in months. My grandmother's old apartment. The one my parents loved to brag about. Family property, they called it. Like blood automatically meant loyalty. What they forgot is that my grandmother never trusted loud love. She trusted quiet consistency. And when she got sick, I was the one who moved in, managed her medications, paid the nurses when insurance stalled, and sat with her at 3 a.m. when pain wouldn't let her sleep. My sister visited once. Took selfies. Left early. When Grandma passed, everyone assumed the will was simple. Old-fashioned. Predictable. Parents to daughters. Equal shares. But 6 months before she died, she asked me to bring a folder from her bedroom drawer. Inside were new documents. Updated ones. With my name written where my sister expected hers to be. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "Don't tell them yet. Families change when money smells close." I kept that promise. Till now. I parked outside the building, staring up at the windows, feeling that same stillness from the steps earlier settle into something sharper. Purpose has a different temperature. It's colder. Cleaner. Another buzz. This time my sister. "Can we please not drag Mom and Dad into this? You're overreacting." Overreacting. To my husband sleeping in her bed. To my parents calling it complicated instead of wrong. I finally replied. "I'm not dragging anyone. I'm just done carrying what isn't mine." Then I walked inside. The hallway smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper. Familiar. Safe. I unlocked the apartment and stood in the doorway for a moment, breathing in the quiet. This place had heard my grandmother's last laugh, her last advice, her last warning. I went straight to the cabinet above the sink and pulled down the envelope I'd hidden behind the loose panel months ago. Deed. Updated will. Power of attorney forms that hadn't expired yet. All legal. All signed. All mine. My phone started ringing. Mom this time, but I didn't answer. I sat at the table and finally let one tear fall, landing right on my name printed in bold ink. Not from sadness. From something closer to relief. Because they thought I was leaving their house defeated. What I was really doing was stepping into a war they didn't even know had started. Twist. And while they were blowing up my phone trying to control the story, the first legal notice was already scheduled to be delivered to their front door. The legal notice didn't take long. By the time I reached home, my phone was already exploding, missed calls stacked like panic. I didn't listen to the voicemails yet. I knew the tone. I knew the words. Shock first. Then denial. Then anger. I showered slowly like I had all the time in the world, letting the water drown out the noise. When I finally checked my phone, the first message I opened was from my father. What did you do? Not are you okay? Not let's talk. Just fear over something that was never really theirs. Then my mother. Your sister is in pieces. How could you do this to family? Family. Funny how that word only gets used when someone wants something from you. I drove back to my parents' house because I wanted to see their faces when control slipped out of their hands. My sister's car was already there. So was my husband's. Of course he came running when things got real. When I walked in, the room went silent. My sister looked pale, mascara smudged, clinging to the couch like she was the victim of some accident instead of the cause of everything. Mom stood up. Ava, this is going too far. I set my purse down calmly. No. This is just finally going far enough. My husband tried to speak. Let's not destroy everything over a mistake. I cut him off with one look. You don't get to use soft words for sharp choices. My father slammed his hand on the table. You manipulated your grandmother. That one hurt. Not because it was true, but because it was cruel. I leaned forward. She trusted me. You just assumed. Silence again. Thick. Uncomfortable. Then my sister whispered, where are we supposed to go now? And for the first time I felt something shift. Not pity, not anger. But the realization that consequences were finally standing in the room. Twist. Because just as she said that, my phone lit up with a hospital number. And I knew this story was about to take a turn none of us were ready for. I stared at the screen while it kept ringing, like the universe was daring me to answer in front of them. My mother saw the number and gasped. That's Mercy General. Why would they be calling? I picked up. Yes, this is Ava, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The nurse spoke calmly, professionally. Your sister was brought in about 15 minutes ago. She collapsed at home. We need a family member to come in. My mother dropped into the chair like her knees forgot how to work. My father's face went gray. And my husband, my almost ex, just stood there frozen like shock finally caught up to him. My sister looked at me, eyes wide, breathing shallow. I just felt dizzy. And suddenly, the villain of everyone's story became fragile. Human. Breakable. Mom grabbed my arm. We need to go. Now. I didn't pull away. I just said quietly, I'll drive. The car ride was silent except for my mother whispering prayers under her breath and my father gripping the door handle like he was holding on to the last piece of control he had left. At the hospital, they rushed her into ICU. Tubes. Machines. Beeping that never sounds gentle no matter how soft it is. A doctor pulled us aside. Severe stress reaction. Heart rhythm irregularities. We've stabilized her, but we're monitoring closely. Stress. Not betrayal. Not guilt. Stress. My mother cried into my shoulder, and for a moment I almost forgot everything. Almost stepped back into the role I'd played my whole life. The one who fixes, who forgives, who swallows pain to keep peace. But then my husband whispered, "This is on you." I turned slowly. "No," I said. "This is on choices. All of yours." And that's when I realized something terrifying and freeing at the same time. I no longer felt responsible for saving them. Twist. Because while they were focused on keeping my sister alive, the inheritance process was already moving forward. And legally they could do nothing to stop it. The ICU waiting room has a way of stripping everyone down. No titles. No favorites. Just plastic chairs and vending machine coffee that tastes like regret. My parents sat pressed together, whispering, blaming, replaying everything that had happened like if they found the right sentence they could rewind time. My husband paced near the window, checking his phone like someone out there might still save him. No one spoke to me. And I didn't chase them. A hospital social worker approached with paperwork. We need the primary family contact for financial and medical coordination. My mother looked up immediately. I'm her mother. The woman nodded politely. I understand, but according to our records her emergency contact and temporary financial guarantor is Ava Miller. Every head turned. My father's voice dropped. What does that mean? It means, I said softly, her insurance, the apartment address, the medical authorization, it all comes through me. My sister had changed it months ago, after I helped her with some documents she didn't fully understand. Back when she still needed me. Back when I was useful. My mother grabbed my hand. Then help her. Please. I looked at the door to the ICU at the machines keeping her body steady, and felt the weight of how close love and damage can live to each other. I am helping, I said. She's getting the best care possible. My husband stepped closer. Then maybe you can fix the apartment thing too. There was not concern. Leverage. I finally met his eyes. You don't get to negotiate from her hospital bed. He flinched. My father stood up. You're enjoying this. No, I replied. I'm surviving it. Silence settled again, heavy and fragile. And in that silence I understood something painful and powerful. They weren't afraid of losing me. They were afraid of losing what they thought I owed them. Twist. Because while they waited for me to bend, my lawyer was already preparing the second move. The one that would legally erase them from everything my grandmother left behind. My lawyer called just as the ICU doors opened for visiting hours. I stepped into the hallway to answer. It's done, she said. The transfer is finalized. The apartment, the investment account, and the remaining estate are now legally yours. Your parents and sister are officially removed as beneficiaries. I closed my eyes not because I was relieved, but because something final had just happened, and finals always hurt even when they're necessary. When I walked back into the waiting area, my parents stood up at the same time. My mother's face was hopeful in a way that broke my heart. Did you talk to someone? Can we fix this? She asked. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't dramatize it. It's finished, I said. Legally and permanently. My father's mouth opened but no sound came out. My husband shook his head. You're really doing this? I tilted my head slightly. You did this. I'm just not cleaning it up anymore. My mother started crying harder. She's in there fighting for her life and you're talking about money? I stepped closer, lowering my voice. No. I'm talking about boundaries. About the years you asked me to be understanding while you taught her she could take whatever she wanted from me. My sister stirred inside the ICU room, restless, fragile, alive. And for a moment, I felt that old instinct to rush in and protect her. But I didn't move. Because protection without accountability is just permission. My father whispered, so what now? I answered honestly. Now you live with the choices you defended. And for the first time they had no argument left. Twist. Because as they stood there stunned, the doctor stepped out again, and this time his expression was not calm. The doctor looked at my parents first, then at me like he was deciding how much truth each of us could handle. She's stable, he said, and my mother's breath came out in a shaky sob of relief. But she had a cardiac event caused by extreme emotional distress. Recovery will take time. She'll need long-term monitoring, therapy, and a low-stress environment. Low stress? My father asked quietly now. Can she come home? The doctor hesitated. Given the circumstances that led to this, I wouldn't recommend returning her to the same environment. My mother turned to me, eyes swollen. Ava, please, let her stay with you. Just until she recovers. There was the final expectation. The last role they wanted me to step back into. I felt everyone watching me. My husband, my parents, even the nurse pretending not to listen. I thought of my grandmother's bracelet. The key charm. The word home that used to mean safety, not sacrifice. I won't, I said. My mother gasped like I'd slapped her. She needs peace, I continued, steady and quiet. And I need distance. Those things can't exist in the same space anymore. My husband whispered, "You're really leaving her like this?" I looked at him, truly looked at him, and said, "No. I'm leaving you all exactly where your choices put you." My sister shifted in the bed, unconscious, fragile, alive. And for the first time, I understood that loving someone doesn't mean letting them keep hurting you. My father sat down slowly, like something inside him finally collapsed. Twist. Because as I turned to leave the hospital, I realized something powerful and terrifying. For the first time in my life, I was walking away without looking back. And nothing was chasing me anymore. The air outside the hospital felt different. Lighter. Not because the pain was gone, but because it was finally mine to carry, not something I had to keep swallowing for everyone else. I sat in my car for a long time before turning the key, letting the silence settle. No one was calling anymore. No one was chasing me into the parking lot, begging, blaming, demanding. That chapter had closed the moment I chose myself. A week later, I stood in my grandmother's apartment with the windows open, sunlight moving slowly across the floor like it was learning the space again. I found the old wind chime she used to hang near the kitchen door and fixed it where it used to be. Soft metal notes filled the room, not loud, not dramatic. Just gentle. My parents tried to reach me. Once. Then twice. Then they stopped. My husband sent one last message. I never meant for it to go this far. I typed back and erased it 3 times before finally sending. It didn't go far. It went honest. That was the last conversation we ever had. I heard later that my sister recovered physically. Therapy, medication, a new place to live. A smaller life. A quieter one. And I hope truly that she learns what it costs to take what isn't yours. Not because I want her to suffer, but because I don't want her to destroy someone else to feel whole. As for me, I stopped apologizing for taking up space. I stopped translating other people's cruelty into excuses. I started choosing rooms where my presence didn't need to be justified. Sometimes justice doesn't look like shouting or winning or being proven right. Sometimes it looks like peace returning to a place that was stolen from you. And sometimes revenge isn't about taking from others. It's about finally giving yourself what they never could.